Hi, I'm Radiance. Welcome to my channel. Usually I'm bringing you enticing recipes with videos that feature deliciousness, creativity, simplicity, and foodie inspiration. But today we're going to bring you a little food inspiration via some tips. Now, I have a previous video where I talked about what they don't tell you when you're vegan or when you're going vegan. And what I wanted to share is tips for people getting into veganism, plant-based lifestyle. But this can be for people who are also seasoned, just as some reminders. And I'm sharing this because there are things that I didn't consider when I decided to go on a plant-based journey. I decided to add that to my diet. And I have some thoughts to share about some of these things. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is starch staples. And I'm saying it because I saw this in an article recently. It was talking about starchy staples. It was talking about beans and legumes and pairing stuff like red quinoa and lentils and things of that nature. I love lentils. I love beans. I love all those things. But here's something that I will mention. Sometimes pairing those things in too much abundance can be too much starch. And I find just through my experience, both personally and through people that I know, that sometimes when people go on a plant-based lifestyle, they tend to add too much starch. And when I say too much, let me precursor that by explaining that. When I say too much, what I mean is they bring in not just the beans, the legumes, they do stuff like, you know what, I'm gonna do a vegan pizza. I did that when I was vegetarian many, many years ago. And when I got more into a dairy-free lifestyle and plant-based lifestyle, leading away from vegetarianism, I've done that too. There's nothing wrong with a good vegan pizza. There's nothing wrong with vegan bread. I love all that stuff. I would just say balance it out. What I like to do sometimes is if I'm going to eat a pizza, and I've been known to eat a whole pizza by myself, right? I'll make sure that I'm adding a good salad to it. Or if it's a slice situation, I'll actually say, you know what, if I'm going to eat 2 or 3 slices and I'm that hungry, I'll add a side salad. Or I'll eat less slices and add some fruit to that, right? I'll drink tons of water. I'm not telling you how to manage it. I'm just giving you some suggestions and things that I've tried myself. Once again, I'm not telling you not to eat pizza or not to eat bread. I just like to say balance it out if you can. Because I've found for myself, once again, and people I've known who did a lot of carbs and a lot of like starchy staples and ended up gaining weight because guess what? The breads and those starches end up turning into sugar. I love a good sweetness, but that stuff does not look good when it packs on you in a massive way. Just saying. And it also doesn't always feel good when you're doing that. You feel healthier and sluggish. So all I'm saying is balance it out. Another thing you can do is make sure you add fruits and veggies. Start with that. If I also say be patient with yourself when transitioning. So sometimes a good thing to do if you don't want to go all the way in right away, which I wouldn't recommend just going all the way in and going cold turkey unless you're really that confident in doing so. I would recommend, once again, adding some things to balance yourself out, adding some things to get more familiar. So some good fruits. Look at your farmer's market if you have access to that. That's a good way to gear what's in season, usually. And sometimes going to farmers markets, you can actually find a variety of fruits and vegetables. Sometimes having like a fruit salad. Now, I'm gonna say something about fruit salad. I love fruit salad. However, sometimes combining certain fruits and vegetables, or certain fruits, I should say, in abundance, leads to not so good digestive in your system. So just be mindful of that. And that also has to do with food pairing. That's a whole nother other science and system of eating. But I'm just mentioning it because sometimes when you pair certain fruits and veggies or fruits and fruits together, it ends up being more acidic in your system and you start to feel a little funny. Once again, I know this from experience. So you can actually look into that. I'm not the expert. I'm just telling you that sometimes it's good to not have so much mixture of fruit, especially for a fruit salad, or sometimes just stick to one fruit. Like, for example, watermelons. Watermelons are one of my favorite fruits ever. A lot of times I'll do watermelons, but guess what? You can pair a watermelon and an apple. Those are excellent pairings. It's a great thing to do. You can also look up food pairings and study it for yourself and see if there's some fruit pairings or vegetable food pairings that you actually like. Veggies, same thing. And speaking of, one of the things I'd also recommend is go green, right? Go green. So when it comes to greens, there's so many abundant things, but I like to stick to things like spinach. Sometimes I'll eat baby spinach raw, in a salad, maybe with some strawberries when they're in season. Or I like to put them in my smoothies in the morning or when I just want a smoothie snack. And also I've been known to cook them and saute them with some onions and having it with a side, of beans or rice, greens. But there's so many abundance of greens. You can have spinach, you can have collards, you can have kale, Swiss chard. Once again, if you go to the farmer's market, sometimes you'll see different types of greens, turnip greens and mustard greens, and there's so many different greens in abundance all over. So yeah, look into that and, add some greens. And what I would do sometimes is, sometimes greens can be a bit bitter. So a good way to sometimes introduce that is to make sure you're looking into how to cook those greens. Some greens, if you cut the stem off and soak them first or put them in some vinegar, that'll take away some of the bitterness. Sometimes you may want to add a little sweet, little maple syrup, something to balance it out. Maybe a little acid, a little something acidic, meaning like a vinegar. And a sweet that will balance out some of your greens and your bitterness in your greens. So that should be a good help. What I would also recommend is plant protein. Plant protein, plant protein. Now, some suggestions on that would be like a tempeh or a tofu. You can also find some proteins in nuts. One of the most famous high protein nuts are peanuts. Peanuts are a great source of protein. Me personally, I love walnuts, but I'm going to say this. While nuts and even sometimes certain legumes and beans are high in protein, like black beans and chickpeas are high in protein, know that when it comes to nuts in particular, they can be very high in calories. You can have something as small as a fourth of a cup serving that can have a high calorie count. So if you're, gouging on a bunch of nuts, understand that it's going to have a lot of calories. And that's up to you to decide if that's going to be good for your way of eating, and good for your overall well-being. But I'm just wanting to put that out there. But I do love some nice nuts. I like making nut butter and things of that nature. So the other thing I would say is dressings. Now, I'm one of those people, strangely enough, who do not like condiments. Yep, I know. I'm weird for that. I don't like condiments. I'm not a fan of ketchup or mustard or mayonnaise or sour cream and relish and all that stuff. However, what I found in my journey of, really recreating the type of foods I eat and making things more plant-based and sometimes dairy-free for the most part, what actually helped me in my not so, good feeling and I'm not really liking the tasting of certain sauces and dressings and things of that nature was to make my own. And I'm saying this for a reason. The majority of sauces and dressings that are out there in your stores, in your restaurant, if you look at the labels, even if you ask the restaurateurs, the base is usually vinegar, and that's the same for dressings, right? I'm not a big fan of vinegar. Now, I like to cook with it, I just don't like the taste of it. So I found that I would do something like, a green dressing, sometimes with just some oils and some greens. So when you're creating a dressing, maybe start with a liquid, like a water. It could be like a soy sauce, do something maybe low sodium, something creamy like a tahini or avocado, do something tangy like a vinegar or lemon or lime, do something, tasty like maybe a maple syrup or a honey. If you're vegan, you can skip the honey, or like a mustard, and like I said, once again, like figure out your liquid to ratio and do some fresh herbs. And you'll be able to create your own dressings in no time. And then you'll be able to know what's in it. And if not, you can check out the grocery store. Just make sure that if you're, really going towards more plant-based or vegan, make sure that the label says vegan and look at the ingredients even more, because sometimes it will not be really vegan. And you have to be careful of what the packaging says and just look at what's in it.